Well, I've come along to talk with David Ashford, health and social care and all that, and it's a chance, being it's the end of the week, we sometimes have briefings, and I thought we'll make this one into a briefing, because you had been away, Conservative Party Conference amongst other things, wasn't it? Conservative
Party Conference and also the Global Ministerial Summit on Mental Health.
Right. In the meantime here, massive sort of stories are coming out about what was going on at the hospital with salaries. Should we start with that one? Confirm, deny, where are we up to? Are we overpaying? Is that the right terminology for the same service that you'd get in the UK? Over to you.
I think what we need to look at is, obviously this is something that's built up over a number of years. It's not something that suddenly happened overnight. And I think it's unfair to tar everyone with the same brush. As I said in the original media pieces around this, around the Timble question put in by Mr. Speaker, there are some consultants that are in line with what you'd expect in the UK. In the Isle of Man, obviously, being an offshore island, you would expect there to be an uplift as well. But equally, there are some positions that have got completely out of kilter.
How's that happened then?
I think it's come from the historic point of view that at certain points in time it's been very difficult to recruit people to certain posts. And so it's developed over that. So I don't think that's the fault of the consultants. It's not their fault that it's developed in that way.
There's a pay scale, and they're just advertising themselves and getting on that. But
I think it's something that we do need to look at and we do need to tackle.
But you could lose
forward.
People, right? We could have the problematical of things. It's risk and payment, isn't it? Not risk. It's payment due because you have to aim higher for money to attract the right people here. If you lower it down, you could be in trouble. Right?
Well, no, I think when we say we've got to look at it, I'm talking about the extremes, and it is very, very few cases, is what I should point out, where you have some people who have got, say, a 75% uplift compared to what they would be getting in the UK.
And then they'd be on fairly good money anyway, right? So 75% is massive amount of money we're talking about.
It is. And as I'm saying, that's only in a few cases. It's not in all cases. So I don't want people to be walking away with the impression that all the consultants are massively highly paid and they've all got this 75% uplift. That's not the case.
But people will think that, and there must be that thought up at the hospital now that people are looking twice at other people and wondering what their pay structure's like compared with theirs, right? I mean, this is the problem you've got here, because no one knows who actually has that fantastic amount of money.
Yeah, obviously we can't in a Timble dancer name names.
See how it can cause problems.
And it could cause friction. But I think the important thing is to say it is on the department's radar. We do need to look at it, and we need to treat it sympathetically and actually deal with the problem.
Are they on salaries or are they on contracts? I mean, so a contract ends and you can then revise it. I mean, because once you're on salary, you can't downgrade people's money.
They're all under contract.
Right.
So, it's something that we will have to look at, and the department will be coming forward with proposals in that area.
Why is it taking so long for this sort of information to be made public? You're meant to be the good guy. You're meant to be telling us all these sort of things. Why was it almost forced upon you? Would it be that strong a term to...
I wouldn't say it was forced upon us. It's something the department has been looking at, and it's something that was raised not long after I became minister.
Okay, did you like that question coming out then? I bet you didn't want that question.
Actually, I did want the question. I think the question has been helpful because it has put it out there in the public domain. As a minister, I'm not scared of questions. I actually welcome questions. I was, as a backbencher, as I think we've discussed before, one of the most prolific question askers. I think it's a very important part of our democracy. So it was actually welcome, the question from Mr. Speaker, because it does put it out there in the public domain. It does actually state the facts around it. But like I say, the important thing to emphasise is it's not all consultant posts. I don't want people going away thinking every single consultant is in the same boat. They're not. There are some positions that have got out of kilter, and we need to address that.
Are you still having problems, though, getting people to fill vacancies at Nobles in general, as well as the top end?
You can't really say that as generalisation, because, of course, when you're talking about health and social care, in a lot of cases, they're specialised posts in different areas. So depending on the speciality, yes, some are difficult to recruit for, others aren't that difficult to recruit for, and then some are in the middle. So it's not as simple as just taking it in generic terms and saying yes, there's a recruitment problem, or no, there isn't. It depends purely upon the speciality. We are very similar to the UK in that regard, where some posts you have got people who will apply and you've got real choice, and then other specialities where you are scratching around trying to find someone.
I think some years ago was always saying it's a bit of a backwater to come to the Isle of Man to take a post. You're sort of putting your career potential on hold because you're not in the thick of the main areas and those sort of places of excellence? I mean, I'm not trying to make it derogatory to Nobles, but the backwater feel, it could be Jersey, Guernsey as well. It could be any Anglesey, I suppose, anything like that. Is that a problem as well, therefore, to attract people to the island?
I don't think so necessarily, because of course, don't forget, it's not just about the job; it's about the quality of life as well. We have a very good education system. We have a very low crime rate. I think in terms of quality of life, we're way up there. So when people consider where they're going to work, and I know from speaking to people who've relocated here, not just in health and social care, but in various other industries as well, where you might well think exactly what you've just said there about, backwater in Ireland taking you out of the thick of it. A lot of people have said you've got to balance off the quality of life against the position you're taking up.
How is morale up there? And, let's be frank about this, there's always stories running around.
I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm not going to try and paint a rosy picture. I've said this in previous interviews as well. I think morale is very mixed. Some people I speak to have very good morale and believe that things are heading in a direction they would want to go in. Other people have very low morale. They still feel like they're walking through treacle, to be quite blunt. And there's others that simply feel that that the communication isn't still there, that isn't still right in being able to get both their view across and also views coming down to them. And that is something we've got to get better at. I'm not going to try and pretend that everything is rosy in the garden, because it's most certainly not.
And that's the thing that always you see, of course it is social media that always highlights these things. You hear the one bad one, I suppose, that always stands out when you've got 10 good ones. Who knows? I don't know what ratio we're talking about here.
Well, I think as well, one of the things I should mention here, which you've given me a good opportunity to talk about, is patient experience. And of course, you're right, social media does tend to lend itself to bad patient experiences, and they're the ones that obviously get hyped up in the media as well, because they're the ones of interest. But I get letters, I've had several letters over the last few weeks and several emails of people complimentary about the service. But of course, you've got to bear in mind, health and social care is no different to anything else. Even in the private sector, in retail and so on, the people who are most likely to come forward are the people with a problem. You don't go back generally and say what a marvellous experience I've had and take the time to do it. Some do.
That must be very depressing though, isn't it, when you see those sort of things and read bad comments and just makes your morale drop further, probably, doesn't it?
Well, not necessarily. If people have had a bad experience, certainly I as Minister want to know about it. And certainly the complaints I've had have been legitimate complaints. So, we shouldn't be dismissing people just because they've complained on social media or because they've complained in general. Most of the complaints I receive, I'd say over the overwhelming majority, have a very valid point, and it's something that needs to be addressed. We learn from our mistakes, is the old phrase, and we've got to get better at doing that.
So, I rated you out, asked you to rate yourself out of 10, that sort of things. How do you rate the experience at Nobles at the minute? What would you give it?
I would say a 7. I would go for a 7 at the moment. I think there's massive room for improvement in certain areas, but there's always going to be room for improvement. Health and social care is one of those things where you are never going to get to a point where ever you say, right, job done, sit back. If anyone ever gets to that point, then it's time for them to move on to another job, because to be frank, there's always something to be done and there's always something to be improved upon. We have got a lot of very dedicated, hard-working staff up at Nobles at all levels, from the porters, the janitors, up to the nurses, up to the consultants, the doctors, and we're very lucky to have them. And what we've got to do is start building up there a system that helps support them. Again, I think there's learning points in terms of communication, but I think we've got to get there. Okay, we'll hold it on this one. We've got other stuff, the private stuff and that sort of thing. So we're going to make a two-parter with the Minister here. So look out for that one coming up.